Okay, am I audible now? There we go. Yeah, I think you can now. Should be able to. Just let me know if it's working. If it's not, I'm going to have a breakdown. Fantastic. It's working fine. Yeah. Gang, that wasn't great. That wasn't a good time. Locks, I'll deal with you later. It's not the most fun game of football, that was it? But even if there was quite a lot there, let's go through it together. Because it's a lot easier to deal with grief when you're surrounded by people that you know and love and understand and feel your pain. So let's go through what happened in that match as a big old group, and we will discuss all of the points that lots of people will be incredibly angry about, and we will talk the little details, and I've got a couple of little facts and stats, and I've accidentally knocked my mic thing because I've slightly changed my setup since yesterday, which is fun. But there's a lot to be talked through from that match, I'm sure we all agree. But first, I'd usually appreciate you popping a like on this stream. It helps it get pushed out, and then it means more and more people can be part of the discussion, and we'll find out where we end up. Also, I'm happy to just have a nice natter with the chat at the same time, so if you've got any thoughts at all, just pop them in there. And yeah, I'm trying to think of more things, but they're gone. Oh, you can also become a channel member if you fancy, or like super chat and stuff like that. All that money's going to Prostate Cancer UK at the moment, so who knows? How do you mean no Joseph? I am Joseph. Hello. Oh, no, wait, you meant Mateo. I will get to that in a little bit because we're going to talk about QPR 4, Leeds United 0. But we're not just going to sort of dive into it. We're not just going to jump into what happened in the match and sort of wander our way through and hope that we end up at the talking points. I'm going to go through it in a way that makes a little bit of sense. And we're going to go through it at first on a player-by-player basis because that is the simplest way of working out who fucked up, who was fine, who doesn't need to play where they played ever again. So yeah, hopefully that should help. And we're going to start at the back of the pitch. We're going to start with Illan Meslier, and you all know that normally I am 100% happy to back Illan Meslier because goalkeepers make mistakes. That is normal, that happens, but shit he made last night difficult to back. I'm just going to duplicate that page so I can have a little bit of a look at the match stats in a little bit more detail. Hello, match stats. So, let's have a very quick look. Match center, that's depressing. Is it on the match commentary? Is it bollocks? Okay. Yeah, I'm going to get into a lot more detail on a lot of this very, very soon. But Jesus Christ, I will have a look at their total shots on the chalkboard, actually. So, shots from QPR. I'm going to take out... that's on this side, isn't it? Yeah, they had a hell of a lot of shots compared to us, and a hell of a lot of them were on target, and a hell of a lot of ours were not, which is depressing. And typically I will back Illan Meslier because he is a young goalkeeper who is almost certain to make mistakes. That is the wrong little thing that I am sharing, so I'm going to ignore that for now. And the issue is, seemingly, without a strong, solid defence in front of him, that mental side of his game seems to have reverted to the sort of worried version of Illan Meslier we had in the past. It seems to have slid back into the Premier League sort of worries that he had, where shots on target were not something that he was comfortably able to deal with. And that is a little bit scary because he's one of those players that we need to be on form, especially going into the final days of the season, because if you're not switched on as a goalkeeper for the entire match, you're going to concede goals. That is completely normal. It's natural. They had 5 shots on target last night, and 4 of them went in. That was a dreadful performance. And if he is reverting to that worried state, then I'll be honest, I myself am going to get very worried, even as someone that will back him to the hilt, because that's not what we really need to happen. John's point of a Meslier 2 out of 10 isn't that far out, to be completely honest with you. Going to quickly duplicate that and have a look at his passing accuracy, I think. Yeah, passing accuracy wasn't brilliant for him either. something like 85% from Meslier isn't what you need from a goalkeeper, especially when you're doing the short passing. It just means you're giving the ball away a little bit more often. And Rodon's 84 isn't good enough, and Byram's 83 isn't good enough, and Firpo only on 75 isn't good enough, but we'll get to that in a little bit more detail later on. And I would agree with this. I'm too tired to rage, but I would argue that right now I also do not have the energy to rage. It's more of just a discussion on what went wrong, and we'll talk through the stress a little bit as a group, as a team, and then we'll maybe find a little bit of joy going forwards. I don't know. Perhaps we will. Thank you very much, John. I appreciate that. I will get into that a little bit later on. We're just working through the rest of the side at the moment. And then we get the centre-backs. And the centre-backs is another place of worry. And I can't remember who said it on Joe's stream last night after the match, but there was very little defensive leadership. And the structure in that back line broke down a hell of a lot. For their second goal, which is one that really stuck out to me, you had Ilya Gruev trying to stand up whoever scored it. I don't know. I don't pay that much attention to QPR except when we're losing to them. And it didn't work. And their player had a shot that curved just about right around him. And that was in a position that is like sort of in the box, edge of 6-yard box sort of territory. And the player that you need blocking that shot isn't Gruev. It's one of the centre-backs. And that's why I think the structure had a little bit of an issue, because the amount of times they're able to just break us down and cut perfectly through that back line was shocking. First goal, I don't think you can blame anyone. For the first goal, I think Rodon's done the right thing by trying to get in the way of the ball. Mellier's done the right thing by reacting to the initial shot, and there's nothing you can do about that deflection in the slightest. I'm not going to blame him for that one, because as a goalkeeper, once you're committed to a certain size of dive, you've used all that elastic energy in your legs and you can't adjust it and dive further. That's fine. The rest of the goalkeeping, not good. But the number of shots they had was worrying to me. They had 9 shots in the box, and that tells me that not only are we defensively not good enough to shut them down, but the layer in front of them isn't good enough to make sure that they don't get into those positions in the first place. They don't cause the pressure to the defense in the first place. And this is another area that I had a quick look at the chalkboard for the stats. So I'm going to go to this tab. I'm going to share my screen. And this chalkboard gives you a rough idea of where things happened. Currently, it's on shots, which is fine. It's all good. I'm going to go to tackles right now. And the thing that I noticed on tackles is, I'm going to see, I can't go sideways. That's fine. But around this area, which is our defensive zones. Yeah. So we've got a couple of tackles out here, one up here, more out here. Junior Firpo doing a lot of defensive work. This entire area doesn't have a single challenge in it, which tells me that probably we should have been doing a little bit more tackling in the center of the box. And I would say it's completely fine to not tackle there if they don't have the ball there. But at the same time, look at their shots. It's not like they didn't have the ball here. It's not like they didn't have opportunities in these areas. We can make the challenges here. We just didn't. And I don't hugely understand why. Also, thank you very much, John. If you could pop a like on the stream, that'd be really appreciated. Yeah, cheers. Gruev showing a player inside on the stronger foot as a schoolboy. All right, I will get to Gruev in a minute. Trust me. But first, we need to do Sam Byram, because we're going to go through all of the players in the team here. And there's a few issues with him. I think the early booking is a pretty big one. The early booking effectively neutralized him. He's someone that when he gets into a tackle, he likes to get into a tackle and go, and he loves his energy when he's trying to recover the ball, which occasionally will get him a yellow card. But when you get that yellow card in the first half of the game and it's ridiculously early, you're going to be neutralized. You can't do that anymore, which sort of took him off his ideal game, which meant that he wasn't able to be as adventurous and he wasn't able to go on those roaming runs. And if he's caught out of position, that's fine, because he can just bring someone down because he's not been booked yet. No, that wasn't something that he could do. And I decided to have a look at his heat map from yesterday, because I thought he didn't have that much of an impact, and it worried me a little bit. And it wasn't necessarily fantastic. This is Sam Byram's heat map here. I'm going to compare it to their right-back's heat map, which also not brilliant, but then again, they did a lot of defending, which is fine. Compared to their left-back, for example, he did a little bit more, you can see, but ultimately that doesn't work because we're comparing them to people that aren't in our team. Instead, let's compare him to Junior Firpo, which is this chunk. This chunk being absolutely everywhere. Junior Firpo was up and down that wing consistently, compared to Byram, who wasn't able to do that interconnecting stuff in these areas. He wasn't able to get to the byline, wasn't able to play those crosses in. And I'll be honest, in this game, Junior Firpo to me came out as the only player with even a little bit of credit. Yes, defensively, not perfect, but we take that because it's the Championship. No one's going to be perfect at offense. But the number of times he would fire in a cross and there just wouldn't be someone on the end of it was depressing in that game. And the number of times that he would make that little pass inside to Somerville and run for the byline so he could cut it back, and Somerville wouldn't play that extra pass, was depressing. Because it shows that we've got that creativity in the side. We've got that will to make something happen, and it didn't. And that's what bugged me. I think it was... can't remember who said it, but someone yesterday said, if you would have told me 3 years ago that the one player in a match like this that gives a shit is Junior Firpo, mind blown. And I think this is about right from John B. Junior Firpo was our best player, and he was a 5 out of 10, which is how unhappy you could probably be with that performance. It wasn't good at all. Didn't enjoy that game of football. But we've done the back line, we've done the fullbacks. We understand that the fullbacks weren't quite as they should have been, and it wasn't interlinking right. And a thing that is a big issue when you're looking at interlinking your team is you need the midfield to do its job. And that in itself was a big old problem, I think. Because I'm going to go with Ilya Gruev as the first of the midfielders to be discussed in this conversation. Gruev was absolutely not at it. We had a comment a minute ago that was... I've got to scroll back and find it now. Give me a second. Why can't I find it? Or can I just not read? Have I been depressed into not being able to read? There we go. Ryan Crawford. Gruev showing a player inside on their stronger foot is a schoolboy error. It absolutely is. And you can talk about the fact that Elias Chair should not have been on that football pitch all day. I'm not going to get into that. But that was daft. And that was the first daft decision that Ilya Gruev made out of a lot of daft decisions. He was bad at blocking shots, which comes from that, just letting him cut in and have a go, and it's just, that doesn't make sense, and it doesn't work in the slightest. His positioning was comfortably off because most of the time you can see he's already in a place to make an interception before they even think about making the pass, so he shut down the passing lanes, and his passing itself was poor. And it wasn't just the idea that, like, the passes that he was attempting weren't working. So I'm going to go back into the heat mappy thing now. This is where I should probably learn to navigate whoscored.com a little bit more effectively. Sorry about that, guys. But let's have a look at pass success percentage. Ilya Gruev had 90% successful passes, which is fine. That's okay. I don't mind that. But 90% of the time, those passes were in the deep areas, passing between him and Gray and Ampadu and Rodon and occasionally Firpo, and attempting to sort of build up from the back. And that's okay. That's something that you need to do. It's the more adventurous passing that just consistently went astray. And then you think maybe when you pair him with a midfielder that sort of interconnects with that perfectly, you'll be okay. That wasn't what we did. We had Gray in the midfield, and I thought that Gray was the perfect option for this match because Gray brings something very different to what Glenn Kamara does. What Archie Gray brings to the side in terms of his sort of midfield play rather than at right back is he's someone that will pick up the ball and look to drive with it and look for the attacking opportunities to bounce off things and people and create more chances, and that is normally fantastic. But the issue with that this time was we needed more of a calming presence. We needed a bit more control in the midfield. And in that match, you could tell by halftime that we really needed to make a change. We needed Glenn Kamara on the pitch because Glenn Kamara simplifies things, and Glenn Kamara is happy to sort of grab hold of the game, make sure that we keep possession, and then play the ball that is the more creative one. That's not what Gray does. Gray looks for the more sort of adventurous attacking pass first time, looks to see what he can create, and potentially loses the ball. And that led to our poor possession early on in the match. And this is one of those games where if we're able to grab hold of it earlier on, we can feel significantly more comfortable because it's fine. We know what we can do. If we've grabbed hold of the match, they don't score that first goal. Arguably, they don't score that second goal. But the fact that everything was so loose and chaotic and frantic meant that Elias Chair had the opportunity for the first goal. Lucas Anderson could score the second easily enough. And by that point, the game's gone and we're chasing. And this sort of links in with what Warpog Piglet just said in the comments. QPR wanted it more and we didn't show enough fight. And this is hopping into the next player on the little list that I've got here, which is Willie Nonto, if I can find his thingy. There it is. Who was, in my opinion, way too weak from the start. He got whacked in the face a couple of times, and I'm sure that's going to hurt because at the end of the day, you're running at full speed. Someone's come across you. It's going to hurt you a bit. That's fine. That's understandable. It happens. But at the same time, you can't just go down and wait and hope that you'll be given a free kick because that isn't going to happen because it's the Championship, because referees don't do that at this level. Because admittedly, a lot of the things that they don't give as fouls could be fouls, but you can't just wait for them to give a foul because they won't, because that's not what happens at this level. And in addition to that, Willie Nonto is the sort of person that when he gets agitated and upset, you can see it. And you can see that he wants to prove himself and he wants to push and he wants to try and do things a little bit better. And that is normally fine. But normally from him, that comes out in the form of complaining at referees and showing passion and all that shebang. But when he gets an early booking, that's a problem. Because he did get booked incredibly early in this game, in the first half. And that means that he can't do that driving and pushing and fighting, which led to where we ended up, in my opinion. Because Willie Nonto couldn't give 100% because he gave away that silly booking in the first half and then sort of got a little bit stuck. Because that drive and that aggression is huge for him 99% of the time, but he couldn't show it. And I think this is a pretty good point. Whacks in the face never bothered Billy Bremner. And admittedly, new generation of footballers, all that shebang, but at the same time, it's going to be the same whack in the face. If you see after the first one that the referee hasn't given it, just keep going. Yeah? You just keep playing and you keep fighting to make sure that you have a chance that isn't reliant on the referee because, again, it's the Championship. You cannot rely on a referee to give you something in this division because they won't. Because referees are... There are nice ways to say this. I'm sure there are nice ways to say this. But blind at best and occasionally making a guess is what I would say about the referees in this division. And I half agree with this. The statement that Nonto's a bit of a prima donna, I don't think so. I think Nonto has been weirdly sort of conditioned by the fact that most of the football that he's played has been in top tiers. Premier League, Swiss League, where referees are going to go, okay, so you've gone down, you've had a whack in the face, we'll give a foul. That's not the case in the Championship. So he's been conditioned into that and he's not conditioned himself out of it, which is a problem. Also, this falling off someone's shoulder celebrating a goal definitely hurts more. I wouldn't say it's soft, I'd say it's looking for a foul that is never going to come. And we're going to get into the next position in the side, which is the other wing, left wing, Crescencio Somerville. And this is another good point. Dr. Cox, Cree needs to stop being a one-man team. Had another quick look at all the information. Hop into the match center. Click on Crescencio Somerville. That's the wrong thing. But in this match, Crescencio Somerville, of all the players on the pitch, had, if I can find it, 3.7% of the match's possession, which is a decent chunk. Consider that midfielders and centre-backs are going to take up a good amount of it when they're doing passing around for comparison. Ampadu with 9.2%, that's fine. That's normal. Going to compare him with Elias Chair. who had 5.7% of the ball. I've just realised I am not sharing this tab. There we go. Bosh. Yeah, here we go. So, possession. Crescencio, 3.7% of the game's possession in this match. Elias Chair, 5.7. Chair's managed 4 shots in that time, and Cree's got 1. I think it's less of a case of Crescencio Somerville needs to be less of a one-man team, and more of a case of Crescencio Somerville needs to be decisive. Because the amount of times he had the ball in a dangerous area and would look like he's trying to think of an idea. There was one moment in, I think, trying to think which way around we were going, in the first half, where he had the ball and he cut in from the wing and you think, brilliant, have a shot. And he didn't. And he takes a few more touches. And Firpo makes a nice move outside him and you think, fantastic, you can play Firpo in now, I've seen what you've done there. And he didn't. And then he's gotten himself another yard and you think, have a shot. And that doesn't happen again. And at the end of the move, he passed the ball back to Ilya Gruev, 20 yards behind him. And all I could think was, you had so many chances to make a decision there, Cree. You had so many opportunities to go, okay, so that's the right pass, let's play it. Or, okay, there's a yard or so of space, let's have a shot. And in this match, in terms of shots, I will have a very quick look at the other heat map that I had set up. That's one for shooting. Let's add this to the stage. That's the wrong one. Let's share this tab instead. Bosh, cool. That's shots. Cree's only shot was from here. And you have to think the number of times that he's going to have the ball in these dangerous spaces and the one shot he's in this position here. Deep in their box, which isn't where he tends to score goals from anyway, is an absolute pain. And I don't like that very much. Next up on the list, Jorginho Rutter. And I will be honest with you, there's not too much that I have to say on this one. Because as Dr. Cox put it, he was missing in action again. He didn't do much. Really at all. Which is bad. Georgie seemed to be almost completely missing in this game, and it was very, very deeply upsetting to me because the amount of times that he can just grab a match by the scruff of its neck and go and make sure that he's just holding on to everything and doing fantastic football and playing his best stuff, and that just didn't come this time. It's just at all. What seemed to happen was that, and I've had a quick look at the metrics on this one as well, and I just need to make sure that I'm bringing up the right tab again. Let's compare Georgie to Anderson. On almost all the metrics, he wasn't good enough. Rating, blown out of the water. Shots, yeah, he's had 3 of them, fantastic. And I will get into his specific shot position and all that stuff in a couple of minutes because, shit, I've got a point to make on that one. But he had less of the ball. His pass success was horrific. Yeah, sure, he won a tackle, and there was a decent aerial one, and there was a few corners, but even stuff like dribbles, which is stuff that he excels in, he didn't excel in. Which was... But the question is, how do you drop him? Because we don't have anyone that can play in the number 10, except we might do, because this is where we have to go and talk about Joel Piroe. And I summed up Pirou's performance in my banners with 4 words. 4 words that I don't know if people would agree with. But watching his performance, there was no other way that I could phrase it. And the summary that I had for Joel Piroe was, God, I miss Bamford. Because anyone that has in the past said that Bamford doesn't bring movement, that Bamford doesn't bring those creative runs that draw defenders about, honestly, fuck off. Piroe was slow, his positioning was not good, and tactically he was bad. And I have a very, very specific way of sort of demonstrating this, but I'm going to go a slightly different route first. The route I'm going to go beforehand is I'm going to add this to the stage. It's going to be the heat maps again, and it's going to be Piroue's. Except I've just removed Piroe. That was daft of me. That's not good. That's not good at all, is it? That is Joel Piroe on this heat map, not necessarily having one area where he's had many touches at all, which is a little bit stinky. Going to put in their number 9 by comparison. Also, same thing. But then again, he didn't need to. They were doing a lot of defending in that match because they just let us have the ball after they were 2 or 3-0 up and then hit us on the counter a couple of times. Fair play to them. It was the right thing to do. But I've taken a similar, heat mappy look at one of the other matches that we've played recently. I had a quick look at... this is not going to be the most representative because it only shows 10 minutes in the second half of a match. But this is Pat Bamford against Blackburn, who is, again, he didn't score, which is not good. And that's fine, I understand that. But at least he's primarily in the box. At least that is something that you can say about the performance. And something else that I noted on the Joel Piroe thing, I'm going to go back to this tab, and it's the shots one, is where we're taking our shots from. So someone pointed out earlier on, I'm going to have to find it. It was about Rutter having shots, I believe. I'm going to have to do a quick skim of the chat. I can't find it. I think it's just because I can't read. That might be where I'm at, to be honest with you. Right. For me, Rutter needs to sort himself out. It should be dropped. All that shebang. Fair enough. I understand if you're making that argument. But my biggest issue with this match is look at where Rutter had his shots from. Those are quite dangerous areas. And yes, they might not be shots on target. Yes, that could be a problem in itself. But he's having shots in fairly dangerous positions. Yeah? From all of these shots that Leeds United have had, let's be honest, there's a few in some fairly dangerous areas. I'm going to get to the right level of zoom. 1 second. Where do you think Joel Piroe's were? There's quite a few efforts here. Yeah. Which of these do you think were Joel Piroe's shots on goal? I'll get into the Joseph thing in a second. But are we thinking they were in dangerous positions? Are we thinking that he was playing in the box and causing some problems and all that stuff? Because when you have a look at it, that's a number 9. Looking at all of our shots, our number 9 had our 2 furthest out efforts on goal. And a third attempt, just about inside the box. It's not where we need him to be playing. At all. You're a centre forward. You're a striker. And Sam Byram, in fact, yeah, let's compare. Sam Byram had a shot closer to goal than you did with any of your efforts. It's not good enough in the slightest. Let's compare with Joe Gelhardt. 2 shots, yes, dying embers, but at least they're closer than these 2. Mateo Joseph. Look at that. When you have a number 9 on the pitch, it can make a difference. And I was talking about the Bamford point earlier, in which saying Bamford wouldn't have been better, all that sort of stuff. I'm going to find specifically who actually said that one. 1 second. Bumfluff would have struggled last night. I don't think he would, because I think he would have at least been in the dangerous positions. Because that's what you get from him. Because in 10 minutes in the match against Blackburn, where he was barely on the pitch, I'm going to share this tab instead, where we lost 1-0 at home. We had a lot of shots here. Piroe's, look at that range. Look at that distance. Bamford's, in 10 minutes of football. In 10 minutes of football, he had more shots in more dangerous places. Byram's were more dangerous. Was James's more dangerous? Yeah. Even Gruev had a shot from here. And I'm in the position where I don't even know. The way that I've put it on the notes is this game has single-handedly put me in the start Mateo Joseph camp. Because at least he's a number 9. At least he gets into those dangerous places. And there was one specific cross that crossed my mind might have been in the first half, maybe in the second, I can't quite remember, where Junior Firpo flashed it across the face of goal, and it was 5-6 yards out. Nobody there. And that is the thing that prompted this, the God I miss Bamford, because at the very least, he's going to try and get a touch on that. And this is another good point as well. Bamford and Joseph would have pressed that defence. Peru, he's not got the pace for it. He's not got the mobility for it. The way I've described him in the past is he is the equivalent of a World War I artillery cannon in the trenches. When he is on fire and hitting his target, he is hitting that target hard. But the issue with that is when you get a big cannon, it's going to take you a long-ass time to roll it into position, get it ready, and have a go. And that's not what we got from him at all, which I don't think was really good enough. On this one, don't see the introduction of Gelhardt when we're 3-0 down was supposed to do. Poor match management. You can't sugarcoat this. What in this stream has made you think I'm sugarcoating a single thing? What in this stream has made me go, yeah, I'm really happy with that performance, actually. It's been fantastic. Are you... What? Okay. Good analogy. Thank you very much, David. Trust me, I've gone through the defending. The structure was just not there. Whole front four didn't press like usual. Can't put the blame on Peru. That's the difference, though. The difference is they don't typically press because Bamford's doing that bit. That's the change. I am. What am I sugarcoating here? I'm saying it's a dreadful performance. I've gone through it player by player to say, like, this player didn't do good enough, here's why. This player didn't do good enough, here's why. The one positive thing I've said is that Junior Firpo looked like he gave a shit and created some chances, and even he was a 5 out of 10. If that is sugarcoating to you, if that is positivity to you, shit, I can't wait to see your pessimism. Because that's bad. If this is your idea of happy, I hate to see your idea of sad, because that can't be fun. However, I'm going to do the cheesy thing now. If you haven't liked the stream, please pop a like on it, because apparently this is an optimistic place where we like things. God. Leeds will never be successful with Bamford as a member of the squad. Joseph should have been starting since the slide started. Rote should have been rested after his operation. Right, hang on. Just need to quickly check something. I need to make sure the numbers are right on this little statistic. Cool. Share this tab instead. Patrick Bamford made 38 Premier League appearances in this season. We came 9th in the Premier League, and he was the 4th top scorer. He scored more than everyone except Son, Kane, and Salah. Never seems like a hell of a big word. I do agree Joseph should have been starting, because, as I mentioned earlier, Peru has single-handedly put me in the start Mateo Joseph camp. Yeah, time for stats, bitch, Joe. Wake up, Bamford, not good. I mean, I've shown you the. Not only have I shown you a heat map of where he takes shots compared to Peru, I've shown you what happens when he's fit for an entire season. If you like, I can show you their goals per 90. How objective do we want to get before we admit that, like, he's probably a bit better starting than Peru here? Leeds had a poor January window. This is down to Farke's silly not guaranteed minutes. What do you mean silly not guaranteed minutes? How are we meaning? I'm not sure I track, but that's probably just a me thing. At the end of the day, we can say Bamford's done this and that about of him and Peru, who scored more number 9s goals this year. I don't know, man. I don't know, because I feel like you have walked into another little statistic here. And then we'll have those statistics don't matter. But when you're talking about goals scored, we'll toggle per 90 stats because it's fair to judge by the amount of time they're on the pitch. Patrick Bamford is our third highest on goals per 90, behind only Crescencio Somerville and Luis Sinisterra. Joel Piroux is behind James Gnonto, only slightly above Mateo Joseph. But that's fine. Patrick Bamford scores fewer goals than Joel Piroux. Anyway. But then we're in the point of the Daniel Farke discussion. Then we're in the point of we need to talk about the management of that game. And I think we needed to react a hell of a lot more quickly. At halftime, when we didn't make any substitutions, I was in the spot of, okay, this game's lost. Because we could see that Gruev wasn't on it. We could see that Pirou's movement wasn't right. We could see that Willie was getting frustrated and nothing was quite happening there. But we didn't make the changes. And we needed to. At the latest, 55 minutes. Give them 10 minutes of the second half after your halftime bollocking and see what happens, and that didn't come. And there was that earlier point that someone made on... let's have a quick look. Where's it gone? I can't find it. Yeah, the Joffrey should have been on at halftime point. I get this. I absolutely get it, because he was one of our number 9s that were on the bench, sort of. He's also a 10-9 hybrid like Piroux, but... And then someone asked what the point was in bringing him on later. And the point in bringing him on later was to make sure that Somerville and Rutter don't get injured. Because clearly Farke believed that Somerville and Rutter would get something done at the end of that match, and based on the season so far, I get it. Sure. But they didn't in that game. And making the change to sort of look after the players the moment you go 4 down is all well and good, but make the change to make sure we win the match at 2-0 down. That's better. And we have a hell of a mental rebuild to come, without a doubt, because losing 4-0 before you've, in theory, just lost promotion, because now we're reliant on Ipswich to lose... What is it? We're a single point ahead of them. We're reliant on them dropping something like 5 points to keep it in our own hands going into the last day of the season. And even when that happens, we're going into it with our most recent match being a 4-0 loss to a team that's was in the relegation battle. You're welcome, QPR. We've saved you. And then we've got Southampton coming up, who we lost against in the first half of the season, and this is going to be a really, really stressful thing to do. Still, generally, based on the season, I back him enough. Good enough manager, because at the end of the day, he has got us to 90 points. But there's still the issue of please learn to fix your substitutions. And this makes me think the sort of gap between Bielsa, Farke and the comparisons are becoming more and more close. The comparison of Plan A, Plan B is just do Plan A better, and it's the same for Farke right now, which is bad. Hold on, where was that thing that I was going to bring back for a quick look? Like, the book has to stop with the manager. Yeah, in this case, the subs were wrong. I absolutely don't disagree with you. It's impossible to disagree with you because the substitutions were wrong. And that particular book has to stop with the manager. And in this case, Piroux as the number 9 wasn't the right choice. And I think that if Bamford isn't available for the Southampton match, that will be changed, because that will need to be changed. But, basically, last night that lesson hadn't been learned, and that wasn't good enough. Yeah. Bamford paralysed now. He can't score. We've seen when the last 6 games he's been in done nothing. He literally scored last match. I tell you what more do you want? The centre forward scored a goal. That's how that works. But okay, sure. That is, I feel, a little bit excessive. Not only because Kiko Casilla had the whole big old racist shebang, But I feel like in the same way that a lot of players are confidence players, Meslier is a confidence player. And that confidence might be shot right now. But at the same time, looking at our squad, based on what happened earlier in the season, would you really rather have Darlow? Would you really rather have Klaassen, who was recently in a fucking car crash? Probably not. It's not something changeable. This is where I think I sit on it. Thank you, Diggler. You've given me the good wording for it. Farke's a very good manager, and he's done great this season, but he just needs to learn to not be so stubborn. He needs to learn to make those changes sooner, that his initial tactical plan isn't always going to work. Because if he keeps on like this, then the playoffs are going to be a nightmare. If we end up in the playoffs, hell, we might go up, who knows? But, yeah. Yeah, I do think we need a proper 9. I agree. I agree we need a straight-up number 9 in the squad, which is Bamford at the moment, because Piru isn't that right now. Okay, you can't say this at the same time as saying that you think Bamford's the worst championship striker you've ever seen. That doesn't add up. And this is excessive. We are right. You're going to bring up the stats pitch again, but it's a good time for the stats pitch, I feel. Going to go to league seasons, and I'm going to go to managers. Okay, which one do we want to look at first, folks? League seasons or managers? Because I can't quite decide. Because neither of these pages are loading for me. He's been this stubborn in every job he's held, he doesn't learn. Has he? Because the the issue at Norwich was the fact that he didn't have any investment because that club had no money. And having a look at the stats on all of the Leeds United managers, every single one, he does still sort of have the highest win percentage of any manager in the club's history outside of, let's have a look, the time Neil Redfern took over 4 games and the time Nigel Gibbs took over 1. As managers go, that could be significantly worse. And looking at league seasons, we're on 90 points so far, yeah? Scrolling down here, Bielsa's first season we got 83. Second season we got 93. Those are the only 2 seasons we've hit 90 points in the club's history. Ever. So to say that like he's been horrific is a massive overstatement. And it is the best championship side we've had. Absolutely. I agree with you. It's an obscenely good team for this league. But as is that Leicester team, as is that Southampton team. And we are still in the conversation despite the fucking horrific August we had, where we had Jamie Shackleton playing on the right wing and Jan Paveda on the left. No, Jan Paveda wasn't even on the left. Jan Paveda in the 10, which isn't better. I'd say we do have a plan B. It's just the plan B seems to be chucking all the attackers, and we didn't have many attackers available last night because James and Bamford weren't there. But that means we need to talk about what needs to change. And this isn't what needs to change overall. This isn't, boom, burn the club to the ground. This is what needs to change before Southampton and before the playoffs. First up, I think we need to have a very, very serious rethink in the midfield because the last 2 games we've had very little control there. I think that means putting Glenn Kamara back into that starting spot. That means taking Archie Gray temporarily out or putting him at right back. I'd say right back because I prefer him there to Sam Byram. But we need to retake control of these matches because the amount of times it becomes a game of ping pong and like the variance shoots up is colossal. And that's where the problems come in. And this is an absolute joke. Farke's lost the confidence of most fans. I don't think he has. I think he's lost the confidence of the loud fans. Because people will be a lot louder when they say, I hate this, than could be better. I think I agree with this. Archie needs to go back to right back, and the midfield is not good enough at the moment. It needs to become Gruev Kamara again, or maybe even you do 3 in midfield to get a little bit more control, perhaps rest Rutter. But if we need to beat Southampton on that final day, that feels like a massive risk in terms of if we need results. In addition to that, I think we need Bamford back to the 9. And if Bamford isn't back to the number 9, and if he's not fit for that final match of the season, it needs to be Mateo Joseph. Because we need an actual number 9 in that position. We need someone who is in the box, is causing a threat, someone that you can cross a ball into, rather than you ping a ball in and you've got Peru 5 or 6 yards behind it. And on this specific one with Daniel Farke won't change, he will. Because when he can, he's made sure to play Bamford. Because he learned that worked. And that was the change. That was the change from Rutter 9, Peru 10. Now it's Rutter 10 because it works. And then, if possible, Bamford at 9. That is something that has changed, and that's something that I think will change again if Bamford isn't fit. In addition to that, something that I saw that Leicester did was they had a very, very serious behind-the-scenes conversation. They had a big old backstage meeting where Jamie Vardy called all of their players together and said, right, lads, come on. We've been in the position to get promoted here. Vardy himself will have said, I've been at this club when it's been in a position to win the Premier League. And currently we're in the Championship bottling it. Get your asses in gear and fix it. That's what we need right now from a Cooper, from a Dallas, from potentially a Bamford, from a Strauch, from a Melier. People that have been here at this club for the extended periods of time that saw the last promotion and want to push us on to the next one. Because we need it. And ultimately, they need to show the fans that they care. Because if they don't, and if they go into that Southampton match and the first 5 minutes is being unable to hold on to the ball, and that horrible stuff where we're just giving it away and Southampton have chance and chance and chance on chance on chance, that's where the problems happen, in my opinion. So they need to, in the start of that Southampton match, show the fans that they give a shit. Hell, there was discussion of reimbursing away fan tickets, and honestly, I agree with that one as well. They need to make sure that anything they can do for the fans before that final day, they do, because they need Elland Road on side for that match. Yeah, it might not necessarily be for promotion yet, because we might have thrown it away by then. But at the end of the day, you need Elland Road behind you. Because if we lose against Southampton, that is none, zilch momentum for the playoffs. Momentum is something that we quite desperately need. And before I dive into the comments again, I'm going to, for a moment, try and reclaim my position as the optimist, but I can find a shred. I thought through my head quite a lot this morning to think, what's good here? Because unlike what some people might think, I've not been sugarcoating a thing here. This has been not fun. The optimism that I can bring, and it's not much, is that it isn't done yet. Ipswich get anything less than 4 points in their remaining games. I'm just trying to run through the numbers in my head. We're a point ahead of them at the moment. They've got 2 games in hand. If they get less than 4 points between Hull and Coventry, it's still on. Yes, we're relying on Huddersfield, but it's still technically not done yet, because Ipswich might wobble. And even if they don't, we will have one more shot, and that shot is the playoffs. And it's not a shot that we want to have to take, but it's available, and it's something that we can do if we desperately need. And in addition to that, we've got longer than any other club to fix it. We have 8 days between QPR and Southampton. A little bit of a comparison. Ipswich have 8 p.m. on Saturday. Coventry, Hull, one of them. 3 or 4 days later, they have the other one. Coventry or Hull. I can't remember which. Next Saturday at 12:30 in the afternoon, they have Huddersfield, who could still be fighting against relegation. So we do have longer than any other club to fix it, because Ipswich have no time at all in terms of turnaround. If they get players injured, problems for them. But if they don't, we need to make sure that we're ready for the playoffs. And ultimately, I want to know what you think. Let me know in the chat if you're live, in the comments below if you're not. I'm going to spend a few minutes having a natter with the chat, probably about another 9 or so. I'll go to the hour. Why not? And we'll just talk through the game a little bit more. If you are watching not live and you are going to nip off now, that's completely fine. I just hope that you pop a like on the video or stream. That's always massively appreciated. Subscribe as well. That's always absolutely huge. I'm trying to push towards 3,000 by the end of the season. Let's hope that season doesn't get extended by 2 weeks into the playoffs. But yeah, anyway. Going to dive into the comments now. If Ipswich get 4 points and Leeds win against Southampton, we're up. This is the little sliver of optimism that I'm talking about. This is the good bit. This is the maybe we're fine. And Huddersfield did get us promoted last time. Let's keep in mind, Emil Smith Rowe, big part of that, which is huge. We can't go into the playoffs with a defeatist mentality. That's why we quite badly need to beat Southampton, in my opinion. Slink, I'm not going to be as full negative as you right now because, as I mentioned in a video a while back, I feel like if you spend your entire week going into a football match negative, it can ruin a week. That doesn't do anything for anyone. It brings everyone down. Sod it. And a lot of people might call it being a happy clapper or whatever the fuck. But 99% of the time, going into a football match, you might as well be an optimist about it. Because if you go into it pessimistic and you lose, then well done, all you've done is be sad. If you go into it optimistic and lose, brilliant. You've had 6 days of happiness before you've lost at the weekend. Go into it pessimistic and win, congrats, you've given yourself about 2 hours of joy before you're sad about the next game. I'm going to be as optimistic as I can be realistically at this point. Because I'd rather not be as depressed as I can. Because that's sad. Who the hell is Joshua? Oh, Joshua. Yeah, let's hope that Ipswich do lose, because they might, because they have been recently, because we've got to remember we're not the only team that has been screwing up at the top of the table right now. Done a playoff final at Wembley once, never again. Horrible. It could be fun this time, maybe. If we get into the playoff final, I'm going to do my best to be there. It's not going to be easy to do, but we might as well. I absolutely refuse. I like not being sad. Happiness is more fun. What on earth happened yesterday? I've been through that. I've gone player by player. Basically, I'm going to run through it as fast as I can. Sod it. Why not? Meslier lost his confidence in the back line, lost his confidence in himself, and things sort of collapsed a little bit. Ampadu and Rodon had very little structure. No one was a leader at the back, which meant that they had more chances in more dangerous areas. Byram got an early booking, which neutralised him. He couldn't do that free roaming thing that he does, where occasionally he'll take a tactical yellow card because he's got caught too high up the pitch. Firpo, in my opinion, came out as the only player with any credit. Solid 5 out of 10. It's depressing that makes him the man of the match, but at least he created some chances. Grove was absolutely not at it. His positioning was bad. His passing was bad, and he didn't block enough shots. Gray wasn't calming enough in the midfield. Kamara in there instead would have been perfect. Nonto was too weak from the start. He got himself a yellow card, which meant that he couldn't play his own game. Ruter didn't create a single thing, which was upsetting. Somerville wasn't decisive enough. He had a hell of a lot of the ball, but didn't take many opportunities in terms of passing or shooting. Piru made me miss Patrick Bamford, and Daniel Farke needed to make his decisions a little bit more quickly. That's the fastest that I can do it, I think. Yeah, Firpo at least was trying. You could see that Firpo gave a damn, and that made me a little bit happy. Clutching at straws. Anyone living in Norfolk has a contagious disease. God. I mean, there's a lot of farms down there. Swine flu could do a job for us. Maybe. I know you were being sarcastic. It's fine. Just 8 goals from set pieces this season. Only Blackburn and Plymouth have scored fewer. Cardiff 20, Norwich 18, Ipswich 16. Perhaps we've got to get 10 points or more. Yeah. Yeah, that's a little bit misery-inducing, isn't it? And something that is easy to note as well is we stopped scoring set pieces when we lost Pascal Struijk. Losing Struijk meant that we lost basically the one centre-back that is happy to attack the ball with their head in the box when we're going forwards, which I think was a huge loss. The only good players we have are Somerville, Nonto, Reter, Gray, Kamara, Joseph, and Gruev. Right, let's go through a squad list. Fuck it. Sort by minutes. Ampadu on his day is very good, as is Rodon. You need to keep in mind that we had a period after the new year where we barely conceded a goal. Meslier is good on his day. He's just a very confident, switchy, on-off sort of player, which can be a struggle sometimes. Ampadu can be good. Yeah. Good enough at points. Meslier and Struijk as well. Yeah. Adding them helps. I think that's harsh to Dan James, who has scored plenty and created even more this season. Who else? By that point, you're working towards a full 11. And Firpo. How did you miss Firpo? Firpo, who has a hell of a lot of assists this season. Firpo's assists per 90 is very close to Ruter's right now. He's our second best in the team. I think that's really harsh to our, as I phrased him in a separate video, Dominican daddy. If we had a team in August, we'd be up by now. It's those games that have come back. Yeah. It was the agent talk bullshit. It was the not having a full 11 for a lot of important games that screwed us, I think. Right, which was the worst of those? It was probably Birmingham, wasn't it? Right. Okay, Birmingham. Our 11 versus Birmingham. And I want you to count on one hand the players that get into our first team right now. Meslier. Fair enough. Ayling. Doesn't get in. We've proven this. Ampadu. He's in there. Cresswell. No. Shax. No. Dan James. Half, depending on the match. Pascal Struijk, also half. I'll pop that up to 3 for that. Archie Gray. Brilliant. He makes it. Sam Byram. Probably not. Paveda, Gelhardt. Matches like that in August, where we had 4 of our first 11, will be what screwed us. And that bench as well. We didn't fill an entire bench. Had 2 goalkeepers on it, and it also had Darko JB, Lewis Bate, Leo Hjelde, and Cody Drameh. Oh. If Ipswich get promoted, you can't fault them. Yeah. If Ipswich go up, fair enough. Well done. They've had a fantastic first season in the Championship and they've earned it. I do think they'll come back down next season because it would be a big rebuild. But I don't know. I've said all season when games don't go our way, Farke likes the minerals to change the game. I think the way that he changes the game is the wrong way to change it. I think his management pre-match, brilliant. Fantastic, because most of the time it works. In-game, nah. What's wild about that Birmingham match was 0-0 until a Dan James penalty in stoppage time. What's in Dan James gave it away because they won, wasn't it? Ipswich will do this. Come on, the town. Why? You are a very Ipswichy boy, aren't you? I mean, I respect it. Fair enough. But yeah. I don't know at this point. I think the 2 matches that are left to come for Ipswich before the last day are tricky. I think the Huddersfield match is tricky, but I do think they'll get maybe enough points. I can feel it may... what would make it very, very spicy going into the last day would be Ipswich having a draw and a loss. And then they have Huddersfield, we have Southampton, and we just need to match. This is a good point as well. Not all Melior's fault. It's been proven when the defence doesn't defend enough, he gets exposed. Defenders standing off the attackers always means one thing. They'll have a shot. A definite maybe. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to commit to anything right now. I don't do optimism right now. Good luck to Ipswich. Promotion was in our hands and we blew it. Yeah, a little bit. George, you are a very optimistic Ipswich fan. I don't think you've met Championship promotion races before, because they shouldn't be this fun. You should be miserable, and I'm saying this from a place of personal pain. Anyway, recent form isn't brilliant for Ipswich either, but we'll have to find out. If Ipswich go up, they probably won't stay up as they can't afford to invest in the necessary squad improvement. They'll be cannon fodder. I might be in the same spot there. Thank you, John. I appreciate it. And I think this is a horrifically harsh way of looking at someone that's got our second highest points total ever, to be honest with you. And that's including the fact that we dropped a hell of a lot of points in August that we couldn't do anything about because we had players going on strike and trying to force a move. Still mathematically possible for Leeds, and I'll cling on to that. It's not only mathematically possible, it's very feasible. Very doable for us. If I can try and find the right little fun fact, I'm going to try and end on a little positive. Because fuck it, we are sugarcoating now. Yeah, that's fair. You've overperformed this season. I just don't think the same overperformance will happen next season. I don't think the Coventry manager is the sort of player that will the person that will let that happen is the bluntest way that I can put that, I think. The way that he does things is scary and will continue to be scary. Right, let's have a look at Ipswich. Let's have a look at their matches against sides in playoffs at the moment. Trying to think of who's in the playoffs. So let's zoom in a touch. Cool. I'm going to do this to end, just to see what we roughly think will happen with Ipswich. As an approximation. A stab in the dark. What's it called? There we go. Ipswich stats. Right. In fact, I'm going to switch to a different layout. Hey, it's a little bit more full screen now. So, lost to Leeds against Southampton. They won 1-0. Fair enough. Fair play to them. Well done. Beat Hull City. A little bit spooky. Don't like that one. That's fine. We'll ignore it. We'll pretend it didn't happen. Lost to West Brom. Beat Coventry. Shit. Lost to Leeds. Drew to Leicester. Okay, that's fine. We're keeping the optimism. Drew to West Brom. Okay, there we go. In fact, where's Norwich as well? We'll include Norwich. Drew with Norwich. Let's have a quick search. Norwich. Lost. Shit, they beat Southampton. Okay, yeah, that's a little bit of a better record than I thought, but it is a bit upsy-downsy. There's drop points in there. 4 wins, 4 draws, 4 losses. Balance of probability, we'll take it as a third of a chance that they can win each of those matches. Third of a chance for a draw, third of a chance for a loss. There's a 1 in 9 chance they don't get a single point from these. Which would be nice, wouldn't it? How did they do against Huddersfield earlier in the season, actually? I've got to refresh the page for that. And a draw against Huddersfield. There we go. We might be fine. Let's hope. Let's be optimists. Because it feels a lot nicer. No, he's not Junior Firpo. Money doesn't guarantee... At no point have I said that. But I get that you're just trying to do your smug other fan thing, and I get that, and fair enough. Fair play to you. I'll let you have it. But ultimately, I want to know what you think. I'm going to end the stream now. If you are watching it in video format, pop a comment down below what you think is going to happen for the rest of the season, what went wrong, all that shebang. Subscribe if you aren't yet, because I'm aiming for that 3,000 by the end of the season, although I might have a slightly extended deadline there. I already have. I've said fair play to Ipswich if they do go up. Well done, you've earned it, but, like, it's fine. Yeah, like the stream if you haven't yet. Subscribe. You could even be a channel member. All that revenue right now is going to Prostate Cancer UK, and same with any super chats and all that stuff. So hope you enjoyed. I will see you later. Oh, I just wish we could support a more sensible club.